Let's take you through some of the other news making headlines globally now. Ukraine has called for more Western arms and assistance as it seeks to take back more territory from Russia. It comes after Ukrainian forces retook as many as 20 towns and villages in the east of the country within 24 hours. Well, Russia hit back with missile strikes against the city of Kharkiv, causing blackouts. But President Putin's tactics have been criticised by one of the leading military commanders fighting on the ground. Officially, the Kremlin says its forces are regrouping, not retreating. Well, this was the situation just a few weeks ago, with Russia still in control of much of the east of the country. That's the area in red. But mapping in the last 24 hours shows significant gains by the Ukrainians in purple to the east and as far south as Izium. From the capital, Kiev, our Ukraine correspondent James Waterhouse sent us this report.
War can be both symbolic as well as significant. And today was just that. Russian ambitions once again abandoned. Moscow calls this a regrouping. It's more like a retreat, and a quick one. Kiev is claiming to have taken back almost all of the Kharkiv region. Even Russian officials admit to being outnumbered by 8-1 here.
Izium був, є і буде Україна.
Izium was, is, and always will be Ukraine, says this soldier. This is territory which Russia fought hard to take, lost in the space of days.
We met them with tears in our eyes. We could not imagine that they would come so unexpectedly, but we've been waiting for them almost half a year, and we are so happy.
Whenever Russia is frustrated, it responds. This time accused of striking civilian targets. A major power station reduced to this, causing trains to stop working on Kharkiv's metro. For some, much more was lost than just power. Ukraine is pushing on more than one front. That has risks, but it's enough to worry one of Putin's biggest allies, Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov. If changes are not made, he said in an online post, I will be forced to go to the country's leadership. This is the most significant Russian withdrawal since they pulled out from Kiev in late March. The human cost for both countries remains huge, and on whether it's a price worth paying, the majority of Ukrainians feel there is no choice. This is about survival, and the idea of making any concessions to Russia remains unfathomable. The Kremlin anticipated taking Ukraine in a matter of days. 201 of them later, it's going backwards. James Waterhouse, BBC News in Kiev.
Well, for more on this, I'm joined now by correspondent Hugo Bachega, who is in Kyiv. And Hugo, more territory has been recaptured by the Ukrainians, but of course, keeping that territory will be very much their focus, and bringing it back into Ukrainian control in every way possible.
Yeah, Mariam, and the Ukrainian officials are now saying that in the east, troops are now working to control those territories that have been reclaimed. And we're talking about more than 50 villages in the east of the country, in the Kharkiv region, places that had been under Russian occupation since the very beginning of the war. So some significant changes on the front lines and humiliating setbacks for Russia. We're seeing pictures and footage from those liberated villages with abandoned military vehicles, ammunition. So these are signs that the Russians had to flee, even though the Russian government has been saying that Russian troops are regrouping elsewhere in the east of the country. Now, the Ukrainian military this morning said that advances were also made in the south of the country, even though reports suggest that the situation in the south, especially around the city of Kherson, which is one of the largest Ukrainian cities in Russian hands, the situation there seems to be much more challenging for the Ukrainian forces. I've got to say, it is incredibly difficult to independently verify those claims by the Ukrainian army because of restrictions imposed on the work of journalists in areas where this counter-offensive is happening. But last night, President Zelensky talked about this offensive. He said these operations are continuing. And again, he seemed to be calling for more weapons from the West, saying that Ukraine and the West must strengthen cooperation to defeat, in his words, Russian terror.
Hugo, thank you very much for that update.